Hello people, welcome to this week's tutorial. My name is Agnes. In case you're new to this channel, you're welcome. In today's tutorial, I'll show you how I made this skirt. I was going for a pleated look, and to achieve that I used the slip stitch for the waist and the single crochet rows for the bottom part, and it is just a repeat of one row. So it has a drawstring in the waist just to make it, you can adjust the waist to make it tighter or loose. So yeah, and you can make it in any size that you want, any length that you want. This will be up to you. All you will need is the measurements for the length and for your hips. So we are going to go straight into the tutorial. It is very easy. It's a repeat of one row. So let's dive in. For this tutorial, I used this Volley-Do Miller yarn. It is 50 grams, 133 meters, and I used 4.5 skeins of this. Okay, it is 100% acrylic. You can use any other type of yarn. You can use medium weight yarn. And yeah, this recommends a 3.5 to 4.5 millimeter hook. Use any yarn that you have, and you can use the recommended hook size. As for me, I will use the 4.0 millimeter hook to make this skirt. 4.0 millimeter hook. You'll need a tape measure and of course scissors. Let's start. So to work this skirt, as I said, it is a repeat of one row. So we are working from one side to the other side. So it's worked vertically. So we are working it vertically. This is where we'll make our foundation chain, and then we will work all the way to the other side. And once we are done, then we can join it together. Okay. So up is a slip stitch, and then this is where we have our waist, right? And then down we work the single crochets only in the back loop. Okay, so it's a repeat of just one row, and it is very easy. So let us begin. You have your measurements. Do you know how long you want your skirt to be? So make a slip knot, and I'm going to make a chain equivalent to the length of my skirt. I want my skirt to be 15 inches. So I'm going to chain 15 inches. How long do you want your skirt to be? 20 inches? Do you want it to be 14, 12, 18 inches? That is up to you. So chain those chains according to the measurements that you want. So I'm done with my chain, and as you can see, this is how we are working it. Our foundation chain will be here, and this, my foundation chain is 15 inches because that's how long I want my skirt to be. So do the same. How long do you want your skirt to be? Make that chain, okay? So we are going to start on row 1 now, and for row 1, we are going to start with the waist side. This part here, which is the waist, this is what we are going to start with. So it's going to be slip stitches. So I will start with a slip stitch, and to do that, we are going to skip this one stitch here, and into the next chain, we are going to make a slip stitch, and this is how you make a slip stitch. So watch me, like this. You have 2 loops, and then pull through all. We are not yarning over at any point, so we are just going through with our hook in the next stitch like this, yarn over once, then pull through like that. So in, yarn over, pull through like that, in, yarn over, pull through, and I'm going to make 10 slip stitches. So you can decide how wide you want your waistband to be. Okay, you can make 15 slip stitches if you want it wider, or you can, mine is 10, or you can make less. This also depends on you. It's not going to affect the height of your skirt. So decide how many stitches. You can make them 12, you can make them 15, you can make them 8. Depends on how thick you want your waistband to be. Okay, so once I have my 10 stitches of slip stitches, then we'll now start working on single crochet. So I'll go in, single crochets from this side. So yarn over. I have 2 loops. Now I'm going to yarn over again. So yarn over again and pull through 2 loops. So now that's a single crochet. Then I'm going to yarn over again and again. So we are going to work single crochets in every chain until we get to the bottom. Okay, single crochets in every chain until you get to the bottom. And you can put a stitch marker to mark between your single crochets and your slip stitches if you're not sure. Okay, just put a stitch marker there so that you know where your single crochets start and where your slip stitches start. So don't make your stitches tight. You see that tightness? We don't want that. My stitches are very loose. Okay, we are using loose stitches. Don't make anything tight. Your slip stitches, don't make them tight, otherwise it will be hard to work in them. Your single crochets, don't make them tight, then you will have a nice and neat pattern. I'll meet you at the end. I'm done with my single crochets. As you can see, my tension was not tight. So this is going to be my last one, and I will work my last single crochet here, and then we will start on row 2. So we'll chain 1, turn your work, and we are only going to work in the back loop. Okay, only back loop. You see these back loops here, this is where we are working. Okay, normally you'd work in these 2 loops, but we are only working in 1 loop that is at the back. So you're going to go in, insert your hook in, and make a single crochet. So be careful where you start, how you start and end your rows. That's what determines how straight your skirt will be. Okay, you saw where I made my single crochet. That's where you will make yours when you're starting the row. So we are going to make single crochets only in the back loop in every stitch until we get to where we have our slip stitches, and then we will switch to slip stitches. Okay, so at the bottom we have single crochets, and at the top I have 10 slip stitches. So this is how it looks. I'll meet you at the top here when I have 10 slip stitches left so that we can do that. So I came all the way from the bottom to the top here where I have slip stitches, and I put a stitch marker just to show you. Okay, so I will do my last single crochets in the back loop, and now this is where I start my slip stitches. So I take this off and I will work a slip stitch in the back loop. Please don't make it tight. We are working with loose stitches. You work with loose stitches, it goes faster. Okay, otherwise it will take forever. So you can put your stitch marker there, but it's not necessary because when we come back we will count. Okay, so don't make your stitches tight, and we are going to work 10 slip stitches. So make sure you don't skip your last slip stitch. No, don't increase, don't put in more stitches. No, this right here is the last stitch. Okay, don't add more stitches somewhere. Okay, so you're going to chain 1, turn your work. Once you have your 10, skip this chain 1 here, and now we're going to go into the first slip stitch in the back loop only, and we are making a slip stitch. My stitches are very loose. You see on my hook, they are loose. That's how you work the slip stitches without them getting so complicated. So I'm going to work 10 slip stitches, and at this point I will definitely count 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 until I have 10. Okay, and then once you have 10, you can put your stitch marker so that when you come back, you know or you can always count. Okay, so it's now for time for the single crochet. So I'll work single crochets, and you can put your stitch marker here where you have your last slip stitch, so that you know that's where you'll put your first slip stitch. So I'm going to work single crochets in the back loop all the way down. My tension is not tight because I want everything to be even, okay? Because if you work some loose, some tight, then you find everything looking funny. If you want it neat, keep the same tension. I'll go all the way down. I'll meet you. So I'm all the way down. I have 2 stitches left. You see my stitches? Please note where the last stitch is. This is my second last, and my last one is in this one. You'll always see 2 loops. Just go in one with the back loop, so that we keep our skirt straight and neat. Okay, if you think you've made a mistake, count your stitches and see if you have the same number of stitches like you started with when you started the skirt, so that you know you're not losing any stitches, or you're not adding any more stitches. Okay, so I'll work single crochets in the back loop only until I get to where I have my slip stitches, and I will meet you there just to show you once again. Okay, so you see below here, it's very neat. Yeah, it forms that kind of zigzag. Is it zigzag? No, you see what I mean. It's not it's not flat. It's just like a nice pattern at the bottom. Okay, I'll meet you here. So I'm coming to the end of the single crochets, and now I work the slip stitches. So if I count them, they should be 10. I'll just take this off. Normally I don't work with a stitch marker. I just wanted to show you. So I'll work my slip stitches, 10 of them, all the way to the bottom, and in the back loop I'm working them loosely, not tight. And this is going to be my last one here. So you will always know where your last stitch is. Where we have 2 loops, just take 1. Okay, that's my last stitch. Then chain 1, and then turn my work, and then skip the chain, and I'll work in this first one. In the back loop, make a slip stitch, and I will work 10. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And now we are going to work the single crochets. So put your stitch marker if you want to put a stitch marker. And we are going to work single crochets in the back loop all the way to the end. Once you get to the end, chain 1, turn your work, and it will be a repeat. So go all the way to the bottom and come back all the way up. It's a repeat of 1 row, and you're going to continue doing this until you have your hips measurements. My hips measurements are 34 inches for me. So this is my 34 inches, but we are measuring from the very bottom because the very bottom is the largest. That's where we measure from, okay? So I put my folded my skirt into 2, and you see from side to side is 17 inches. Of course, 17 times 2 is 34, right? At the bottom, this is where we are making our measurements. So it is equivalent of my 34 inches because I've folded it into 2. Right, so do the same. Always measure once you're working your work. Measure how many do I have? 20 now? Do I have 30? Do I have 34? Do I have 36? Until you get your hips measurements. We are measuring at the bottom. Measure when you're folded because that makes it easier. 34, but measure when you're folded. When I'm folded, it's 17. Okay, when I'm folded into 2. At the top, it's about 10.5 inches for my waist, which means it's about 22 21 inches all around, right? But it is super stretchy, and we'll put a drawstring. Okay, so we are going to put this skirt together, and we are going to be sewing it together. This will go on the side, so we are starting from the bottom to the top. So let's do this. So this is where your right side will be. We are sewing from the right side, and we are going to be using slip stitches. So just go into the back loop. These are the 2 loops, but we're only working in the back loop. So go into the back loop here, and then into the first chain on the other side, and then make a slip stitch. Go into the next back loop on this side, because on the other side we had that chain, that's the foundation chain, so it's just like one chain. So make a slip stitch, back loop into the chain on the other side, and slip stitch, back loop, and go into the chain on the other side and slip stitch. And you are going to do this until you get to the top. But if you have a better way of joining, this is my method of joining. I'm sure there are better ways. I just was too lazy to search for a better way. So if you have a better totally invisible way, you cannot see this once you put the skirt on, because it's kind of goes into the it's stretchy a bit, so it just identical to the other rows. But there must be a way that you can do it that is way better. So if you have another way of joining, then use that method. Really, it's just simply joining. You don't have to use my method, right? So do this until you get to the top of the skirt, and I'll meet you once you are done. Okay, I am done, and this is how it looks. I cut the yarn off, and this, once you wear the skirt, is not really that visible. So yeah, now let's do the drawstring up here so that you're able to tighten or loosen your skirt. Okay, so I already have my yarn all the way through. Just get a yarn needle, and this is what you're going to do, because I already did mine. I started here, went all the way almost at the end. I want to show you how I did that so that it's not visible. We'll be working under these ridges, so I don't want it to go on top of here, so we'll be just working below in the inside. So I'll go out like this, in like this, out like that. Just watch. I can't explain it because I'm not going over these ridges where you can see it when you're wearing the skirt. It's very invisible. You can never see it. So like this, I'm going into every stitch. So I go into the stitch from under there, okay, and then I pull. You see, you don't see it, but from the inside you can see it, and we don't want that coming on the outside, right? You see, you don't see nothing. Okay, so let's start again. In like that, out of the next stitch, in of the next stitch, out of the next stitch, in of the next stitch, and pull, and then start again. So make it invisible and go all around. This will help you to, these stitches are very stretchy, so you don't want your skirt falling because the stitches are stretchy. Just have something to hold on to. So this, just you can just tie from the, and then put the rest inside, and nobody notices, just like I did. Okay, so go all around. Once you're around, then come. You see, you can be able to do this, right? And it is invisible. Okay, so do that, and I think that is it. So in your ends, you'll be able to tie it and put it inside, and nobody will see it. So that is it for me. The skirt is done. I hope you like it. I love it. I didn't get a chance to really style it. I think I'll take some pictures and put on Instagram once I get to style it, because I can't wait to do that. It is really pretty in person. These videos don't do it justice because I just took them in a mirror or something. So thank you for watching. Give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe, like, share. I'll see you in my next tutorial. Bye.